Hello and welcome to the Food Connections podcast, the podcast that helps you learn more about the food you eat and connect with those who make it. I'm Dr. Laura Winus, a registered nutritionist specialising in nutrition research and communication. I'm also delighted to be one of Scotland's 25 regional food tourism ambassadors. In this Food Connections episode, I'm joined by Lynn Mann from Supernature. Her and her husband Chris make lovely cold-pressed rapeseed oil from their Carrington Barns farm in East Lothian. Cold-pressed rapeseed oil is a heart-healthy oil with less than half the saturated fat compared to olive oil, and it has lots of beneficial unsaturated fats such as omega-3. It's also a source of vitamin E and contains a variety of antioxidants that are beneficial for health. Lynn explained how rapeseed grows and the process of producing the oil. I also found out about different ways rapeseed can be used in the kitchen to excite your taste buds, so I really hope you enjoy listening. So welcome to Lynn Mann. Thanks for being my guest today on today's podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, and you're very welcome.
Can you give us a little insight to the farm where you're based and kind of describe it, paint the picture for us?
Sure. We live on a small tenanted farm about 11 miles south of Edinburgh. My husband is the tenant farmer, and the farm has been in his family for 5 generations, so nearly 170 years. The tenancy has been passed down from generation to generation. It's all arable. They have in the past had livestock, but for the last sort of 30 years, it's all been arable, which means that they just grow crops. So he has grown oats and barley and wheat and rapeseed. He still grows a mixture of barley, wheat and rapeseed. Our farm is sort of surrounded by the fields where we stay, so it kind of feels like we're out in the middle of nowhere, but yet we're only half an hour's drive from the centre of Edinburgh. So it's it's great.
It's a beautiful part of the country, really.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely. It's really nice.
But you haven't yourself grown up on a farm, so your background's a bit, quite varied, really. So do you want to explain a little bit about just some of the roles you've had or some of the jobs you've had?
Sure, yes. I mean, I'm a bit of a city girl, really. So I grew up in Glasgow, and when I met my now husband, I was actually working in television at the time, and had come here to do a story for a children's programme about the farm. And I had no experience of being a farmer's wife. They still joke with me that they're still expecting to come in one day and have nice floury scones freshly baked on the table, but that's never happened yet. Previously, like I say, I worked in television, and I also did sort of various other jobs. My son got me to count them once, and it came to 22. So
wow,
I was a bit subdued when I realised it was so many. But various things. I worked as a counsellor, therapist, trained as that, worked as that for a few years. I also sold water filters at one point. I was an aerobics instructor, so a variety of things.
I suppose all good experience for what you're doing now on the farm. On the farm, you said obviously you grow a variety of crops, but one of the main crops being rapeseed. So do you want to kind of explain a little bit about what rapeseed is and how it's grown?
Sure. Rapeseed's a brassica crop. So basically it's the cabbage family. And it's the fields that people will see with the bright yellow flowers that you notice over summer. It's a fast-growing plant, and it produces pods that have little black seeds in them. Well, the seeds are initially green, and then they turn black as it flowers and goes to harvest. And it's all the nutrients and the sunshine that the plant's drawing in grows the pods, and then as it goes towards harvest and stops flowering, the seeds get bigger and blacker, and the oil is filling up inside these seeds. So basically we then harvest them, bring them to the farm, and press the seeds to get the oil out of them. And that's what we then sell. We started it 11 years ago as an on-farm diversification. And because we just grew crops at the time, and I was on a career break from having had our daughter, and my husband was looking at various diversifications just to sort of bring in some extra money, add value to what he was already doing on the farm. And when he mentioned rapeseed oil, I sort of said, oh, what's all that about? Because I hadn't really heard much about it. This was about 12 years ago, 11, 12 years ago. And he said, well, it's supposed to be healthier than extra virgin olive oil. And I think we can produce it on the farm. And me thinking I was like very healthy eater and knew a bit about nutrition, not very, very little bit about nutrition. I said, oh, no way, it's healthier than extra virgin olive oil. I don't believe that. So I researched into it, and then I realised that it was healthier in that it had more of the right balance of omegas, high in vitamin E, also has a really high burn point, so you can cook with it at high temperature without it breaking down. So all of this kind of made me encourage him to start the business.
And it seems to grow really well in Scotland, or you certainly see huge fields of yellow at certain times of year.
Yes, yeah. Apparently Scotland, one of the rare climates the rare thing that actually the Scottish climate is good for, is that the rapeseed plant likes cool climate, but it likes long daylight hours. So over the summer, when we've got the long daylight hours, but the cooler climate, it's not so warm, they really like that. So actually, Britain, sort of Scandinavian countries, probably the ideal climate for growing rapeseed.
And you said it was quite fast growing. So when do you plant it, and then how long is it until you harvest it?
Well, we're quite unusual in that we grow a spring crop, which means it gets planted in April and harvested in September. So its growing season is over the maximum daylight hours and the maximum sunshine. Because of that, we feel that it makes a much more light, buttery oil. And that's why we've kept doing that. We get slightly less yield with the spring crop than you would with a winter crop, which you would plant in September and harvest the following July. And so we would get more yield from that. But we just felt when we first produced out the oil, we thought that the spring crop produced a much better tasting oil and better quality.
Okay. So yeah, I suppose the flavours are impacted by lots of different things, from the soil to the amount of sun, and as you say,
very much. My husband Chris believes there's a real terroir to it, that it's the taste of the oil is a mixture of the soil type, our particular microclimate on the farm here, the variety he chooses to grow, and so I think a real mixture of things.
Okay, and when you come to harvest it, I know because my dad used to grow a little bit of rapeseed as well, and there's always a conundrum about whether you leave it and harvest it straight, or you swath it. So that's, you like half cut it, and it's very dependent on the weather.
Yeah, I think I don't think Chris does the swathing. I think more the just cutting it, because with producing the oil, he has to, as soon as he's cut the seed, harvested it, he has to get it dried down to a low moisture content, which makes maximum oil for maximum oil extraction, but it also helps the seed stay fresher for longer. So he kind of dries it as soon as he's harvested it.
And drying, that is just in a huge big vat with heat kind of generating. Yeah, not too high a heat or it would damage the seed. But yes, it basically gets puffed around in a big drum to sort of dry it, and then it goes into big sacks, and then it can be stored for a while in the big sacks. When it's dried down to less than 8% moisture, it can then be put into big sacks. Yeah, so that's why farmers are so intrigued or interested about knowing what the weather is going to be and long-term forecast.
I think the word you're looking for is obsessed.
Well, I was trying to be diplomatic there. Yeah, the weather is the most important thing on the TV and radio for farmers, but it's with good reason. So once you've got the seeds dried to the right moisture and stored, then it's obviously ready for pressing. So what is that process?
It's a very simple process, actually. Basically the seed goes into a big mechanical press, which literally just squeezes the oil out of the seeds. Mm-hmm. And the oil then goes into a tube, which goes into a filtering machine, which basically just means that when the oil passes through the filters, any bits of husk or pulp or anything that are still in the oil then get taken out in the filtering process. And then it goes into big vats ready for bottling. So it's quite a simple process of just really crushing the seed to extract the oil, mm-hmm. and then filtering it, bottling it.
Yeah, and that's the difference between, you get obviously cold pressed rapeseed oil, which is what you're producing, and you get standard rapeseed oil, which is the oil's extracted in a slightly different way.
Yes, the whole process that I described there's no heat added to that, which means that the oil is just squeezed out of the seeds cold, mm-hmm. But it leaves a fair bit of oil in the seed when you do that, which is why it costs a bit more for the cold pressed rapeseed oil than for standard rapeseed oil. Mm-hmm. And standard rapeseed oil is extracted using heat and I believe chemicals as well to get maximum oil out of the seed. So a bit of a different process.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's still standard rapeseed is still a healthy oil as well. But I suppose with a cold pressed, because you're doing that gentle pressing, you're not losing the flavour or some of the nutritional properties of it. Yeah,
definitely.
And do you use you said you filter the oil out. So what happens to the pulp or what's left over? Does that get used or?
Yes, that's a good question. That's something that's been really good, is that what's left basically comes out in a kind of tube, long sort of snake-like tube, and it's a mixture of shell and pulp and also oil. And we actually gather that into big sacks and we sell it to a neighbouring farmer who uses it to feed their cattle. And when she first tried the rapeseed cake, she really noticed a difference, that she felt her cattle did really well on it, and they had a lovely sheen to their coat. And so for the last few years, her and other farmers have bought the byproduct of producing the oil, and which means that it's a really sustainable full circle business where there's no waste, because the byproduct is then sold for animal feed. That's been great.
Yeah, everything's got a use. No waste. And with the oil that you're producing, when it's bottled, how did you first go about selling it then, or where do you mainly sell it?
Well, that was interesting, because a lovely friend of ours who helped us design our labels, he's a graphic designer, and he helped us design our labels and everything initially, and then continued to design our branding. And when we first had our first batch of oil, we all tried it and we all thought it was great, and we bottled it and put caps on and everything by hand. And so we had this first batch of just plain oil, original oil, and he said, "So how are you actually going to sell this stuff?" He said, "It's not as if you can just put cases of it in the boot of your car and drive around Edinburgh." And I said, "Well, actually, that's exactly what I'm going to do." So that first day, it was a horrible, wet, windy, cold day in February, I think it was. And I just drove around delis, farm shops, restaurants in Edinburgh. The restaurants, I was more just sort of handing in a bottle of oil to say, could you try this? Went into delis and shops to ask them if they might be interested in buying some. And I went to 27 different places before a butcher shop in Edinburgh, who's our first customer, who's still a customer today. I think he must have felt sorry for me. I think I must have looked a bit desperate. So he said, I'll take a case of your oil. So that was the first success.
Brilliant. And he's still a happy customer today.
He is, yes.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, normally there's some kind of detailed marketing plan that you set out with, but yeah, that seemed to work anyway, your way. So with the oils, you've got a number of different oils as well. So you've got this, the standard, and then you've got a few flavored oils.
Yes, we first brought out the original oil, and we noticed that quite a few other people who were doing cold pressed rapeseed oil down south more at the time. There was a couple of others in Scotland, but mostly down south, were doing infused oils too, and they were maybe doing lemon, chili, garlic, things like that were the most usual. And we tasted some of those, and we felt that the strong taste, because sometimes rapeseed oil can quite have a strong taste, and quite often the taste of the lemon or the garlic or the chili was kind of fighting with the taste of the oil, which was quite strong. So we had thought early on that because our oil is quite light and buttery, that it would go well with being infused. Mm-hmm. So we started off doing the sort of main ones, lemon, ginger, garlic and chili. And we just got such an amazing response because people were noticing that it just tasted like pure lemon, it tasted like pure garlic, so you weren't having this sort of fight of the taste. Mm-hmm. And because they were so successful, we decided to specialize in infused oils, and we've now got 15 different ones, including a black truffle and a white truffle oil. So we do more sort of unusual ones like lime, coriander, lemongrass, as well as herbs like basil, coriander, things like that. So yeah, they've been very successful. We do mini bottles of them as well as the bigger bottles. We do gift packs. So it's just added more strings to the bow of the business kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And how do you come up with the different infusions, or is it just a trial and error?
Yeah, just trial and error, really. We've tried, and there's ones that we've wanted to do, but when we've tried them, we felt that because we use really high quality extracts of the different roots, fruits, plants, and when we've sampled different extracts to try with the oil, some of them just haven't worked, even ones that we thought, oh, that would be lovely. And then the ones that we just loved ourselves and we thought really worked are the ones that we've brought out.
Mm-hmm. And what's the best way to use the infusions, or is there lots of different ways you can use them?
Well, yeah, no, they're fantastic because they still have the high heat capacity. So you can use them at really high heat for roasting, stir frying, things like that. So likes of the garlic, the chili, ginger, brilliant for stir fries. And you don't even need to use any of the fresh herb or root, because it just, you get the full taste from just using the oil. And then things like the basil is lovely over a mozzarella salad or pizza or something, or pasta. The lemon is amazing just on a salad or for cooking white fish. So there's quite a variety of different ways that you can use all of them. So what we did was we were finding at shows that people were trying the different infusions and always saying, oh, but what would I do with this one and what would I do with that? So in our leaflet and on each bottle, it's got a few usage ideas for each of them. And that's worked quite well.
Yeah, that's always good to know. The practical uses are just examples of how to use them.
Sure.
And you mentioned, obviously you can use them cold on a salad or heat up, because as you said before, it's got a high smoke point, which is when the oil is heated and it starts to smoke, and then that's when it starts to break down and changes its chemical structure and taste and things. So one of the many benefits of rapeseed oil. So because this is a Food Connections podcast, I was wondering what your favourite way to use the oil might be, or have you got a favourite recipe or favourite meal that you enjoy?
I think it would have to be a toss-up between a lunch that I do or a snack thing, which is a slice of toasted sourdough bread with some mashed avocado and then a drizzle of our lime oil and then a fried egg on top. That's my kind of go-to lunch, or if I've come in, later and I don't want to make a dinner, I'll do that. And the other thing that's really excellent is using the truffle oil in mushroom risotto. The truffle oil goes so well with mushrooms, and in mushroom risotto, it just really adds a wonderful edge to it.
Lovely. Sounds delicious. And you mentioned before that the oil is quite versatile and we can use it as high temperatures, but also in bacon. Does it go well in substituting butter, for example, with an oil?
Yeah, it does actually. I was surprised how well it works. I've made carrot cake with the oil and using, instead of butter, using lemon oil or original oil. A friend of mine used to make sponges, just Victoria sponges, using the oil instead of butter, the original oil. So quite a lot of recipes do have oil in them. And so it works well using the infused ones. So you could use lemon or we do an orange infused oil as well as the lime. So there are sort of different ways like that you can use them. Yeah. And I also made I used to make a key lime pie quite often, and the base was crushed digestives with butter. But I would do the base with crushed digestives and half butter and the lime oil, because then you'd get the lime in the base as well.
Oh yeah, the extra flavour. Brilliant. And have you tried it with scones yet? You mentioned at the start.
Yes, no, I haven't. That's really something I should try, shouldn't I?
Definitely.
Give them all a surprise one day and they come into not only homemade scones but made with the oil.
I'm sure it'll go nicely, because there's a lot of reformulation work with companies. I think they often take out some of the butter and substitute it for oil. And rapeseed being such a healthy, nutritionally kind of got lots of nutritional benefits in it is quite a good one to help improve the nutrition profile. So yes,
definitely.
But yeah, let me know how the scones go.
Okay, I will do.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been really fascinating just getting an insight to what you do and how you produce the oil. And I'll definitely be trying out some of those infusions. Thanks for all the tips.
Great. You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to this Food Connections podcast. Do check out the show notes for more information related to this episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, please tell others about it, and do get in contact with me if you have any comments or suggestions for future guests. See you next time.